Alright guys, welcome back. Got a 65 Mustang here. This may or may not be your taste, I don't know. I figured I would film it. We'll see how far we get here and if it's going to make it to YouTube or not. I thought it would be something interesting for you guys. As you can see, this car is actually a really nice car, nice driver. Not a show car, but very clean. He's in the process right now of doing some stuff to it, and he brought it in because he wants to upgrade from this gauge set that's in here, which is the factory cluster, as you can see. And this thing has that sweep style speedometer and gauges that are kind of hard to see, you know, in all honesty. They're really not. I mean, the speedometer is easy to see, everything else is kind of illegible, but what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade this set to a cluster set that he bought. I'm going to show you what we got. All right, these are the new gauges. Very, very, very nice looking gauges, made by a company called Classic Industries. Come with all the hardware, mounting hardware and such, and wiring that you need, except for the speedometer. If you want to make it digital, which I'm sorry, it's going to be electric rather. Instead of having a cable, we're going to use electric to generate the speed signal, and we'll go through that process when we get to it. But the only thing I'm not crazy about so far is this is a Scott Drake bezel, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's probably not going to come up on camera, but by eye I can see that these two holes are not exactly the same size. And again, it's kind of hard to see on camera, I think. Maybe you guys can see it, I don't know. But this one is larger than this one. If I take my speedometer here, you can see that it pops right into place. If I take my tachometer, which is supposed to sit in here, that is as far as I can get this thing in. And you can see it's not fitting well. Now, I tried to call the supplier where they bought this from. I have not been able to get them on the phone. They told me that if I would like to wait on hold, I'll be there for a certain amount of time. And I could have to have them call me back. Excuse me. I could have them call me back. It'll take about an hour and a half. So I did that. And what I think I'm going to end up doing here, unfortunately, is I'm going to take the Dremel and I'm going to grind the inside of this out. I scraped, I don't know if you can see this, I just scraped the inside here for to see what this is made out of. I thought this was a laminate, but it's not. It's a thin metal, sheet metal of some kind, with a laminate probably over it. So yeah, we're off to a good start. Aftermarket upgrades, you know, whatever you want to call them. So we're gonna do what we got to do to make it work. But I wanted to talk to them first before I start opening this up. None of the other gauges fit either, just for your information. So if you guys are buying something like this, that is as far as the gauge will go in. I tried all of them, you know, randomly tried different ones. They don't fit, none of the holes. Now, yeah, they can't be, you know, they shouldn't be falling out, but but this is beyond, you know, this isn't right. So they obviously didn't open these holes properly. The other thing that I noticed, and I mean this is not a big deal, but and I don't know if it's going to show up on camera because I cleaned it partially already, but inside where the turn signals are, that's where they glued, I guess that's where the glue that they put for the laminate came through, because they, you know, must have did a sloppy job. So this whole thing was completely filled up with glue on both turn signal indicators. And again, I don't know if you guys are going to see that, but try to get you a shot. You can see in there, but that's what's left. I'm trying to get it all out to make it look nice and clean. But again, quality control at its best. And I've said this before about Scott Drake parts. I think they suck. They're absolutely garbage. Don't know how they were back in the day. They are junk now. Nothing fits right with them, and everything's got to be modified. So why would this be any different? Heads up for you guys, all right? Alright, so we've got our cluster wiring pretty much done here. Made everything as neat as possible. There's more to do here though. I want to show you guys something. And I know I didn't do a whole lot of talking now with this, but better late than never. On the original instrument cluster, which I'll show you, there is a turn signal indicator, okay? And if you look on the other side, there's a high beam indicator. This does not have an indicator for each side on these vehicles, at least not on this model. I don't know for sure on the other ones this year if they did have it or not. This new cluster has turn signal indicators on both sides. All right, and it also has the high beam indicator, but it's in the center. So what I did was use a little bit of ingenuity here. They do not give you bulbs or sockets or anything for this kit. These are your original dash lights for this car. Just a backlight illumination for the dash. Okay, and I'll show you on this old cluster, they would simply just push in, all right, and that's it. So what I did is I cut the harness on these because we no longer need backlighting. These gauges are hardwired together. All the backlights are inside the gauge. You can see them right here. So these are all hardwired. And once this is together, that's it. All right, no need for external bulbs like this. So I took the two out from the old cluster, and I'm going to utilize these as signals, as indicators rather. So I put them in here. I will wire this. Here's the other catch. Actually, I'll show you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Make sure the key's on. Shut the headlights off. If I turn my left signal on, maybe, okay, there's the left signal, there's the right signal. You see what I'm talking about, right? There's only one indicator. That's not going to work for this. So what I'm going to do is I utilize those other bulbs, those other sockets and bulbs, and what I did is I went to the turn signal switch for the output for the front lights. You can't use the rears because the brake lights are going to go through there. So I'm going to take my harness and I'm going to make a new harness, a sub harness off of the turn signal switch output to the front signal lights. Okay, if you follow me there, I'll show you a diagram. Not that you're going to really get much out of this, because I can't even see it in person. It's very difficult. I marked it here, signal, and this is my connector here. Okay, and I found my my two lines that go to the front signals, and they are going to be white and blue and green and white. And I'm basically going to just tap into those, and I'm going to run those lights up to my turn signal here on each side. Make sure you do right and left, guys, right side. Once I do that, this is grounded, the socket is grounded to the platform here, okay? So once it's in the car, it gets ground right through the whole thing. So just one wire for each side, and that's it. So we're going to get to that Kind of hard to try to film this because I'm going to be in front of the camera, so I'm not going to bother. But I'll show it to you when it's done, all right? All right, so now that we've got the wiring accomplished, well, we've got most of the wiring accomplished. You can see the gauges mounted in their home, and if everything went right here, which I'm sure it didn't because I didn't take very much care throwing this in, you'll see me power it up, check my signals that operate, just shut the radio off. Hey, look at that, that works. We'll turn our lights on. Needs a dimmer switch, but not real concerned with that right now. As you can see, it does work, just a little finicky. That is in the switch, guys, not the gauges. And let's see if the high beam indicator still works. Yeah, it does. It's just not actually in the back there because I forgot to put it back. But it does work, trust me. I have already taken the liberty of setting up the tach. I did a lot of this off camera, but let's see if I can get you a head-on view here. Closer up. Very nice set of gauges. Speedometer still has to be wired because it works a bit different. I'm not going to read through all of this, but there's a setup procedure for the tach when you first install it, and you can obviously reset it if you were to take this out of this car and put it in a different vehicle, but it's basically to set up what type of a system you're running. Is it ECU controlled? Is it MSD? What have you? So you go through that procedure, and then they want you to set up for how many cylinders this thing is running on, which is another procedure. Once that's done, you can optionally set up a shift light trigger on the gauge if you have a shift light to hook up, which we do not obviously here. And speedometer is a whole other calibration setup. Now, obviously, most of you guys would be familiar with these older vehicles. Speedometers are not all created equal. What do I mean? What I mean is, here's the original speedometer. Obviously not even nearly as nice as the new one, but that aside, this is the back of the speedometer. On this speedometer, you would have a square drive that goes inside here. It's a cable with a square drive end, and it would spin this. And I'll see if I can simulate that for you. As you're moving, you see that. Best I can do here is about 20 miles an hour. So now, what I wanted to show you guys is, as you can see, that speedometer there works mechanically, right? It's driven by a cable. I found the other side here. This is not the cable. This is not the part that goes into the speedometer. Obviously, this is the part that would go to the trans. But this is the new piece that we're going to be installing. The old one would have a cable off of this unit, and the inside here would be driven to that by a gear, and then it would drive the speedometer up at the top. And obviously it's calibrated by the type of gear that goes into the trans, okay, for the ratio at the rear end on this vehicle. In any case, the new one, is an electronic speedometer that works like a modern or late model vehicle with a speed sensor. You have 3 wires. You got ground. You have 5-volt input, which is coming from the speedometer. All right, in this case, and you have your signal. Very simple. This has to run from the trans and then up where I'm going to run this actually in the original location where the actual cable is. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to run this up in the dash. I'm going to screw this guy into the trans after I put the gear on it, and we're going to solder this up to the cluster, and then we will calibrate the speedometer, hopefully without any issues, and everything should work as advertised. Pretty neat little setup here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to find my screwdriver, and I'm going to pop this guy back out, if I can see. And here's my wiring. All right, so I went out there and I got my pieces together here for the speedometer. Here's your speed sensor, and this is 2 pieces. This unscrews, which I'm not going to take it all the way off, but this unscrews from here, and I took the cable out off camera, and as you can see here, the gear has been placed onto the new assembly, and all it is this little snap clip here. Just pop it out with a screwdriver or with your nail if you can, and the gear pops off. It's a square drive, obviously, and I'm gonna go pop this into the trans. I can't film this because I'm doing this on the floor. The reason I'm doing that is obviously because the lift, I don't want to have to play around opening the door and try to maneuver my way in here. I'm not that thin. So that's it. I'm going to pop this in. I'm going to run the wiring I already ran through, if I can find it, right here. And we will plug in the other end and then wire this up to the dash, and we'll be able to set up our speedometer. Should be pretty cool. Well, that's it, guys, with the gauges on this thing. I road tested it, and made sure that the speedometer works, all the other gauges work, and that's really about it. So I filmed what I could. I hope you like the result, and again, everything works, which is always the goal. The lights, final checks here, and there's your high beam indicator. That's it. Well, he's good to go. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you soon.